James Creedon for our daily dose of Media Watch. Hello there, James.
Hi, Laura.
We're going to start with the Kurdish referendum. We just had the Kurdish Foreign Minister on here explaining why he thinks it's a good idea to hold this vote right now, the day they've waited decades for. That's what they're saying.
That's right.
And there is an awful lot of buzz about this on social media.
And a lot of jubilation coming from the Iraqi Kurds, in any case, who've been tweeting in English to get the message out there that this is something that their people want very much. Proud to cast my vote earlier this morning and partake in this historic day, the day of the Kurdistan referendum. You had hashtag Kurdistan referendum, hashtag Kurdistan independence were the two. That is the head of the Kurdish regional government in Iraq. Traffic police helping handicapped and elderly people who insist to participate in the referendum. Images such as that going up online as well. Even security guys offering chocolate to journalists. This is a BBC journalist who got a little treat as she entered Erbil. And emotion from others who were saying that words cannot describe my emotions after voting in Kurdistan's referendum on independence. Now, Kurds around the world as well were also taking to the streets to show their support for this initiative. This is in Austria, but of course where it's much more tense is in Iran and in Turkey, where you have huge
they're not so happy about it.
Say again?
The governments of those countries are not so happy about it.
But
yeah, the Kurdish populations.
But they're managing to take to the streets, and there you go. That's one set of images showing Kurds in Iran on the streets to support that referendum. But the governments are not supporting it. Now, quick whip through some of the headlines. This is Al Monitor, Pan-Arabic news website. What's next after the Kurdish independence vote? And of course, all eyes looking to Baghdad, looking to what Ankara is going to say, whether or not Erdogan is going to come down really tough when it comes to oil exports, which are
he's even threatened to send in troops already. So
there you go. So Daily Sabah in Turkey, they are very much covering the Erdogan angle. The Kurdish regional government's oil exports could be blocked, and that would totally cripple them. 550,000 barrels of oil exported via pipelines going to Turkey. Well, that's it. And then economically, they're in serious trouble. This is a theory coming from Iran's press TV. It's really curious to look at how you've totally different version of events depending on the state propaganda, essentially, because that's what press TV is. Leaders' Aid warns of new US-Israeli plot to partition Iraq. Now, that's rather curious, because when you go to the Jerusalem Post, they're pointing out that, well, the US actually is not in favour of this referendum, and that that actually has made the US find itself in the awkward position of being on the same side as Iran in this regard. And this is an interesting piece in the Huffington Post by a member of the Israeli Knesset, explaining why Israel supports the Kurdish referendum and saying why the rest of the world should perhaps follow suit. And indeed, historically, there were alliances between the Kurds and the Israelis.
They do have a mutual respect. If there's a journalist, an Israeli journalist called Itai Angel, who actually spent a lot of time with the Kurds, and you hear the Kurdish people saying they have deep respect for the Israeli people because they have Jewish people's self-determination and the rest of it. So
absolutely. So there is a degree of harmony there in terms of policies. So it is quite interesting on this particular issue. What is the Turkish media saying? What is the Iranian media saying? What is the Israeli media saying? Because you're getting extremely
everybody's saying something, aren't they?
Well, they are, and it shows.
Last week we were talking about Catalonia. This week we're talking about Kurdistan. It seems to be happening everywhere, doesn't it?
And it depends on whether you're in favour of these independence votes or whether you consider it to be balkanisation and dangerous and divisive. It's certainly regionalisation seems to be a trend right now.
Yeah, a lot of issues coming up there.
Or nationalisation, depending on how you look at it.
Now, let's talk about something a bit closer to home. These are Emmanuel Macron's Labour reforms. Yes. He's pushing ahead. He's had some opposition. Not as much opposition, it has to be said, to the last attempt to reform French labour law. But what is going on today?
Okay, so I'll just do the headlines because we don't have time to go into depth, but this is what we're seeing. Roads and fuel depots being blocked. You were covering that earlier, Laura. Now, the main person who's sort of becoming the vocal critic of all of this is the far-left leader, Jean-Luc Mélenchon. And because of the extent to which En Marche is now the predominant party in Parliament, it means that even though he doesn't have as many deputies in his party, he actually is becoming one of the major voices of opposition to this Labour reform. And so we see that, well, I won't have time to go into that, but for Macron, there's a lot of criticism of Mélenchon, who he says is behaving somewhat like the National Front. This is for the fact that he is an MP now in the Marseille area, and he won't come to Macron's rally he's going to be having a gig, I suppose you could say, in Marseille. Whereas for Jean-Luc Mélenchon, he's been accusing the government of behaving like Nazis. So you can see here that there's a real war of words emerging, with a lot of Nazi language.
It's a word that gets thrown around a lot, isn't it? Really?
They're each accusing the other of being right-wing fascists, basically.
Exactly.
Anyway, Mélenchon is hoping to get lots and lots and lots of people into the streets and block this. We'll see how that goes.
Okay, good stuff, James. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks,
James Freed in that with Media Watch. We are going to take a very short break here on France 24. Do stay with us. Much more still to come.